Here's exactly what you should focus on. Things that matter and things that you can control. The perfect medium between those things are where you should set your sights. What's up, everybody? JD and Jonah of the Banking Bros here at the Cash Compound, checking in on you to make sure your mindset is right on this episode.
Another week, another episode.
Yes, sir. So, Jonah, what we're talking about are things that you actually should focus on. So we're going to talk about some general perceptions and some theories that people have out there about money, about their life, and we're going to help them recalibrate toward the things that they can actually be effective at thinking on.
I love that. So it's like things that matter, like kind of like you said.
Things that matter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times people have misconception about things that matter, or they think something works a certain way and then it doesn't. I think we used a quote from one of our previous episodes that said, "You don't know what you don't know."
Yeah.
And once you know something that matters, we're saying, hey, that's what you should be focusing on if you find the truth.
Yes.
Right?
If you can control it. See, there's another side of that fence,
Sure.
right? You have to be able to control it because there are certain things that matter a whole lot that you cannot control.
Sure.
So we're going to get into it right now. One of the main things that we focus on, and let's hone in on that, is getting into cash flow. Cash flow is going to be our word of the week. All right, Jonah. So we've got our word of the week as cash flow. We've looked it up
on our favorite site, where we look up all our definitions.
It's not our favorite
Google.
site. It's just
this is the site we use for definitions. And this time, the first results from Investopedia, which we've mentioned before. And so the word of the week's cash flow. And here's what Investopedia says.
Yep.
The term cash flow refers to the net amount of cash and cash equivalents being transferred in and out of a company. There's some key takeaways on the page as well. So it says cash received signifies inflows. Cash spent signifies outflows. And it also says there are several, a company's cash flow is typically categorized as cash flows from operations, investing, and financing. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about our motto at the Cash Compound, cracking the code to cash flow, how does that tie into our definition?
Yeah, so it's about what's coming in and what's going out. And I think most people are only looking at, a lot of times, what is going. The thing is that they miss is they're able to control how much comes in. They don't realize they can do more there. Now, we are very aware normally about things that are going out,
Sure.
and we just know that it's going out too fast and it's going out too much.
But again, most of the time you can actually control a lot of that.
You can,
right.
Which is part of what we have to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yes. So most of the time, the average American family and person is probably just utilizing things as a consumer. Sure. Is the only thing. And one of the pieces of the definition mentioned the word investments. And investments doesn't always mean only what I grew up thinking, like in the market specifically. Sure. There's other ways to invest because you can invest time or energy or in relationships, but they're only thinking about investments that they cannot control.
I agree. Most people, that's kind of that's what they would associate with investments,
yes.
Period.
Right.
They're going to put their money in this plan program, whatever.
And whose plan is it? Not theirs.
And it's not their plan. It's not their program. They have no control over that. And they worry a lot about it. So again, back to what we're talking about, they think that, oh man, like it's on their brain and on their mind so much when they have actually no control over that.
Right.
Which one of the things that we say to folks, so a lot of times instead of being over the airways with you guys right now, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to our podcast, a lot of times in the past, pre-COVID, we were doing a lot of live events, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And kind of one of the first things we kind of get up in front of the room when we talk to the room is we say, we know and give examples that we were taught to put your money in places you cannot control. And one of the things that we want to help you guys out with is how you can put your money in a place that you can control. Right?
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. Most people are putting so much of their income, their hard-earned money, in places that they can't control it, and then it's always on their brains and minds, and
right,
it matters so much.
They've given up the responsibility that they have to learn and grow more, which learning and growing is something you can control.
Absolutely.
And if you do a better job at that yourself, if you put the investment in yourself, then you're going to be able to control so much more of your life. But you have to, in a lot of cases, you have to take back the control because you've already given it away, right?
Absolutely.
So, Jonah, how many people do you deal with on a weekly basis that are out of control when it comes to their expenses?
A good number. Generally, pretty much almost anyone who's going to start off with a banking policy is going to have some of these issues where I've given up control of a lot of my wealth, a lot of my assets, and they're trying to regain it. So generally speaking, I mean, we help a good number of folks each week. I mean,
do you think that's going to be the standard across North America? Most people are in a place where they wake up, let's say as an adult, maybe they're working, maybe they have a family, and they've already given up control by putting their money in places or doing things, or even their time. Their time is already given up. They gave it up to someone else, and now someone else or some organizational system really is controlling their life rather than themselves.
Absolutely. That's going to be the basis pretty much for the American adult, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's people on the extreme side one way or the other.
Sure.
But the average American, absolutely, given up pretty much control over almost every aspect of their financial life, for sure, right? And we're talking about whether you're, and I'm not picking on anybody, we're not trying to do that,
right?
But whether you're putting your money in qualified plans, government-sponsored plans, another name for it. Again, it's kind of in the phrasing and the title there. You're not in charge. There's not your sponsored plan. The government did that.
If it was my sponsored plan, the goal would be to just make me lots of money and give me lots of cash to use at all times.
I saw a video here recently by someone very popular, Grant Cardone. You've probably heard that name, where he's talking about the use of money. And he basically is saying the reason for money is to spend it. That's the entire purpose of money, which I agree with wholeheartedly. I mean, it's just a piece of paper. Having 10 million of those pieces of paper at your house, but you can't spend, would be worthless.
Yes, completely. That's such a big deal because we've talked to people and we've tried to help people understand the mindset that you and I both had, which a lot of people out there did, is that I needed a pile of money at some time or some place in my life, but I was never in control of that money.
Right.
The goal was to have a big pile one day. No, the goal is actually to have enough money to use it.
To spend it, right.
Yeah,
to buy
the pile is not the point.
You want to get the things you need, right? And so what we teach people a lot of times as well is it's just about the flow of cash.
Yeah.
Right? We've talked about this on some of our episodes when we talk about retirement aspect, kind of air quotes at the house if you're watching or listening, and we say things like, if you have flow, like if you can generate revenue, income, cash flow of $5,000 a month for the rest of your life, who cares about the big pile? You don't need it. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, as long as that flow is bigger than the expenses you need. As long as that flow
is bigger than your expenses, right?
And you control it. It doesn't matter. You never need a pile. What's the pile for?
Take your cash flow from 5 to 6 or 6 to 7, whatever makes the most sense. But if you can do that, you don't need the pile. Right? And then like Grant Cardone's saying, and like we're saying, what's the point of the pile if you can't use the pile? Right? Yeah. Having the pile's not.
Yeah. Have you heard of the 4% rule? Right? A lot of people out there have. And they get to that point when they've got maybe investment accounts that are stockpiles, right? Yep. They've got those nest eggs. And they say, hey, you can most likely safely get 4% of this money out year after year to be able to use.
Yep.
And hopefully you won't outlive, or the returns on it that you don't control will still be able to provide you over the course of your life. That's not control.
That's not control.
And here the thing is, once again, we're always trying to help people understand. We're here to educate and make you think again, because you probably stopped thinking and thought that was the only thing out there. We're not mad at anybody.
Right.
We're just saying where is the control there that you have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is actually reminds me of a video we actually just did for our socials. So on Instagram, on TikTok, if you're following us there, Facebook, or wherever you're looking at us.
YouTube Shorts.
And it's about compounding. The premise of the video is about compounding. And basically what we're saying in the video is compounding doesn't work by you just putting your money somewhere and expecting it to compound. That's what they teach us. That's what they try to tell us is happening, but 100%. We know that's not happening.
Well,
if you were to put $100 in a shoebox and lock it in your basement, is there going to be baby $50 bills in there next time you open it?
There'll be $100.
But they try to tell you that if you give $100 to the bank and let it sit there, that it'll grow. Well, that's not what's actually happening. What's actually happening is the bank's now in control of the $100, and they can now use the $100 to make more money, right?
And we're helping people take back that same mindset.
All we're saying is, if the bank can do it and control it, then you can too. They're not more special than you are. They don't know what they're doing more than you are. And like the other side of our episode topic here is, it's about things that matter. And we believe that your cash flow, your livelihood, buying the things that you want, providing for your family matter.
Right.
And so that's where you should focus on.
Love it.
Things you can control and things that matter.
So here's my story. My story has to do with the way that I spent my first several years of marriage.
Okay.
Was all about limiting what we were spending, but it wasn't about investing in ourselves to be able to get more coming in. There's only so much limiting that you can do.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what happens. Milk is still going to cost $3.
They get upset that you're not watching the Netflix shows.
Exactly. Yep. And before your wife we have children, right? Yep. So we're growing a family and having kids in our first several years of marriage, and there's only so many limiting things that we can do.
Accurate.
It is we can only go so far down and limit, but we can go infinitely above in earnings and gains and investment. And the number one thing that we have to do is invest in ourselves. So we become more valuable in the marketplace. We become more useful. There's more reasons out there for people to get stuff from us that they'll pay money for.
Absolutely.
That was a problem in my household. And I think even right now, we're still, as a family, converting our mindset into an abundant mindset. We can learn. There's an infinite amount of information we can learn. There's an infinite amount of things that we can do. There are options when it comes to having income and having control rather than limiting. I mean, it's just so profound for us when we've been thinking the wrong way for a long time.
Sure. And it's hard to wrap your mind around the right way of thinking, the better way of thinking, because you've been so ingrained into the wrong way. So it's not something that you listen to this one podcast episode and then you're like, I got it. You know, it's about practicing what you're thinking. It's about continually thinking on it. It's about getting around people who are thinking the same way.
Right.
It's about using the products and that those people are promoting, going, listen, here you can have control. This is what you should be doing. And if you believe in that, going, okay, well, I'm going to do that and continue doing it, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, that relates back to these banking policies where you've got control of the cash value inside of it. You can use them. You can do anything you want with it.
Yeah,
while still earning. It's
so invest in yourself and your future and the opportunities you want in the future. But let's get into, so once again, there's a few things that you can control outside of money as well. But money is very important. Your income, your knowledge base, we've hit on those. But sometimes you can control things that surround your job choices, around your health, things like that you can control. So focus on those things because they matter, right? If you're here and you're producing in the world by your job or your opportunities of entrepreneurship, and you have energy and health and mindset around those things are important. Focus on those because there are a ton of things that they've got us thinking about all the time
that aren't important
or we cannot control them. So let's get into those right now, and let's actually start out with that list by going to our comment of the week. Our comment of the week comes to us from TikTok, one of our TikTok accounts that we have out there. Follow us at The Banking Bros and The Cash Compound. And there's a guy who's named Roy in there. At least that's his handle.
Okay.
And he wrote this a couple weeks ago, but I thought it fit really well. He was responding to something that we did, of course, and he just said the one-liner, no one teaches that taxes are unconstitutional.
Interesting.
Now, the reason that I'm bringing that up...
I'm going to have to break that down for him at home.
The reason that I bring that up is not because I agree or disagree. However, there are many people in our line of thinking who do believe that our federal levels of taxes and the way they go about it with income tax and things like that, right? Uncle Sam's coming for you in April, right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just happening. It's just happening.
Yep.
I cannot control that, even if it's unconstitutional. The point is I can't do anything about that. Now, maybe we as an entire mindset and a group of people, obviously we can get laws and rules changed. There's ways to go about that in our country. Nothing is set. So that's awesome. But the point is on a day-to-day basis, I've got taxes. And I can't control that. I can't control the level of taxes.
Right.
Now, I can do things around that to help manipulate what I have to pay.
Absolutely.
But the fact is, it's there. So should I spend more time thinking about the fact that they're unconstitutional in my individual everyday family life, or should I try to make sure that I'm out producing what I have to give up?
Sure. And that's the premise of the whole episode. Don't focus on things that are out of your control. Now, not saying ignore it, not saying
that's true.
Don't pay it.
If you ignore taxes long enough, they come get you.
Yeah, I'm not saying do that, but we're saying focus on what you can control. Focus on earning then if you're nervous about the taxes. Focus on so many other things that are more important than whether or not this is constitutional or unconstitutional. Yeah. Again, not saying that we've got a particular opinion about it. We're just saying, listen, we understand your comment. Yeah. And I'm not saying he's not focusing on it either. We're not picking on you, Roy, if you're listening.
It's just the one-liner.
It's just focus on what is important and that you can actually control.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's some other things, Jonah, that I wrote down that I want you to comment on them here. Things you can't control. The government, we basically got into that with taxes.
Yep.
The stock market, okay?
Mutual funds,
a lot of
growth,
people
spend time focusing on that.
Yeah, so jump in there. Jump in there with their investments with stock market. Yeah, talk about that. The point is when I turn on the TV and I flick open Twitter or I'm scrolling through CNN.
Stock app on your phone, notifications, Robinhood, crypto.com, whatever it might be, right?
They are things that matter.
Absolutely.
But are they things you can control?
For the most general part, no, you're not controlling them. And again, we're talking about real general stuff here.
Of course.
Right.
But
for the most part, no, you can't control them. So again, if you can control it and it matters, we should focus on it.
Yeah.
If you can't control it, still it might matter, but if you can't control it, focus on what you can control.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about. So a lot of these things have some gray area in them. Specifically.
Oh, yeah, because like you said, the point isn't not to control. Well, the point is to make sure your mindset is right around these things, right? Because you can always get more knowledge. It's unlimited. You can always have more resources and find more ways to be able to manipulate your particular situation. But that doesn't mean I'm controlling the price of the stock.
Right.
Now, of course, if I actually run the business, that's a little bit different. But we're talking about general third party here when we go through these things. How about these right here? When it comes back into the realm of cash flow banking, when we're talking about infinite banking and whole life policies, we get into this conversation a lot, but we actually haven't brought it up on the podcast.
Okay.
Things you cannot control.
Okay.
Your death.
Yeah, it's happening. It's going to happen. It's coming at some point. Hate to break it to you. A few episodes ago, we had one of my favorite comments of the week. We took that comment.
I feel sorry for this man, for whoever said that to you.
I think actually it was over the phone call, but someone once asked us, what happens to the money in the policy if I don't pass away, if I don't die? What happens to the money? And I had to break it to him. You're going to pass away, man.
Yeah.
I think actually
at
first
the
he
time,
kind of tricked me because I was like, good question. What happens? No, not a good question. You gotta pass away. Actually,
right.
At some point, you're gonna go.
So the thing is, here's the question then. What about the things that you've been producing cash flow throughout your life? Now, throughout your life, you need money no matter what. That's how it works, okay? Yep. You need money, you need cash flow to be able to produce the things that you want, okay? But your ability to produce around the things that are important to you, whatever you're producing money for, yourself, your family members, your causes, can you potentially still control some of that if you're dead because your legacy was set up correctly?
Absolutely.
You can. Isn't that really wild? Absolutely. Now, we're not getting into the depths of all those pieces, but the point is that you can actually focus on being able to influence the things that are important to you, even when you're gone, but you will not control when you go. Very important to think about. So here's the question, Jonah. Do you plan to have causes do you have causes right now?
Sure.
Nonprofit, charitable, and other things like that
Absolutely.
that you support today?
Yep.
Okay, now would you like those things to go completely belly up and bankrupt if you die?
No, I would not. I want them to continue.
You'd want them to continue.
Yeah.
So is your use of cash flow through banking, able to help those causes still continue, even if your demise comes today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a big deal to think about, because the reason I bring that up, we're saying things that are like way up in the sky today, but there's a lot of people who don't understand why they would use our systems here that we talk about, wealth creation and these policies for banking, for cash flow, because, I don't really have kids. I mean, there's nothing that you're using your money for, your legacy or your name for today, or causes that you believe in outside of you that you wouldn't want to continue. That's pretty sad. I mean, I got a lot of causes. So if you like me, maybe you should leave some of the money to me and I'll put the money into the causes.
Sure.
It's a big deal here. So there are lots of reasons to be able to keep this flow going, even if you're gone, but you can't actually control when you die. Now, you can do a lot of things for your health today. So eat right out there, exercise and all that mess, people. But one day you're going to be gone. But actually, you can still have some influence over things that do matter while you're gone. Big deal. Okay, so Joni, got a fan follow of the week?
We sure do.
Here we go.
And here's our fan follow of the week. Our fan follow of the week is Funky Falk. Looks like his first name's Brian. He's following us from Instagram. What's up, Brian? Big shout out to you. Thanks for the follow.
Yo.
Hope we're putting some good content out for you. And thanks for tuning in.
We, on this episode, have been talking about what you should focus on, and it's the beautiful intersection between things you can control and things that matter. When it comes to your money and your wealth, you should focus on the right things to be able to build your wealth and crack that code to cash flow each and every day of your life, first starting internally and mentally, and then outward in your community.